Chapter 6, Visible Changes. Clearly annoyed, Sar strolled over to join Abaddon in the investigation of Azazel's shoulder. "Is that what I think it is?" Abaddon suspiciously asked. Sar carefully examined the small amount of Zuwd Abaddon discovered. "That's impossible," Sar thought. "Where did this come from, Azazel?" "Where did what come from, sir?" Azazel innocently questioned. "There is a small amount of Zuwd on your shoulder. Tell me how it got there." Azazel strained his neck to look. "I have no idea, sir." "Isn't this interesting?" Abaddon stated with a hint of contempt in his voice. "Exactly what are you implying, Abaddon?" Knowing he was out of line, Abaddon thought it best not to respond. Once again, Sar turned his attention to Azazel. "Tell me, Azazel, what have you been thinking about?" Confused, Azazel desperately attempted to conjure the right words. "I have not been thinking of anything, sir, but I am honored you shared your Zuwd with me." Immediately, Sar's rigid expression lightened. "So, you acknowledge that I am the only one capable of creating the Zuwd?" Azazel glanced back and forth between Sar and Abaddon. "I do not understand," stated Azazel. I could never have created it for myself." "I thought we already established this," Abaddon declared. "We concluded that Sar is the creator of the Zuwd. What we have yet to decide, however, is how Sar's Zuwd appeared on Azazel's shoulder." Abaddon looked at Sar. "Can you remove it?" "Good question." Sar rolled the Zuwd around Azazel's shoulder, trying to remove it. "No, I cannot," confessed Sar after several failed attempts. Perplexed by the recent events, Sar began to pace. "There must be something we are overlooking," insisted Abaddon. "Let me examine the situation once more," began Sar. "We all agree Azazel has my Zuwd on him, correct?" This elicited nods of agreement. "He does not possess the power to create it, only I do." He said this more to reassure himself than the others. "The Zuwd is not transferable from one being to another, but I have somehow given it to Azazel. Did I miss anything?" "No, sir," the other two stated in unison. Sar's level of irritation had risen beyond anything he had experienced. Although alien to him, he enjoyed the impact his new persona had over the other two. Sar continued pacing, mulling over the facts in his mind. He abruptly stopped. "Tell me, Azazel, what were you eating earlier?" "Finally, a question I can answer," Azazel thought in relief. "A piece of fruit I found on the tree." "What did you say?" interjected Abaddon. Azazel was annoyed that Abaddon was asking him questions. "I said a piece of fruit from the tree." "Azazel, tell me exactly where you found the fruit." Sar was short of yelling and trying to maintain control over his new emotions. His eternal light surged. Azazel and Abaddon balked at the intensity and then the dullness of Sar's appearance. Their eyes met with uncertainty. Azazel thought it best to continue the conversation as if nothing had happened. "I found it close to your chamber, sir, when I tripped," he emphasized, making a point to glance in Abaddon's direction, which only elicited a smirk. "The branches are full of them." Sar glared at Abaddon and took off toward the western corridor, and the two rushed in the direction of Sar's chambers, leaving Azazel standing alone. "What does the fruit have to do with the Zuwd?" he asked, shrugging his shoulders. He headed toward the hall to join the others when it hit him. "Wait a minute. I knew that fruit looked familiar." Sar and Abaddon followed the potent aroma coming from the corridor leading to Sar's chamber. Down the west hallway near the chamber door, they could see two figures stoop down under the branches examining the roots. "Those are my men, Vanity and Haughty, sir." "Who gave you permission to enter?" insisted Sar. The two Isham glanced up, unsure at how to answer, then slowly stood. "Sir, we were sent by Shatar to see if you needed any help to make sure everything was all right," stated Haughty. "Obviously it is not." "I did not request help," Sar shot back. "Why would Shatar send you?" "Well, sir, when you did not return Afar's call, we were dispatched," replied Vanity. "Do you want any help with this mess? How did this happen?" Abaddon stepped into the conversation and took the lead. "You asked too many questions. Sar is simply trying to integrate more life into the palace, and as with all renovation projects, there's a mess. Now, why would Shatar have sent you? We were working on the new fountain on Afar when the quaking started, and one of Shatar's Maliks ordered us to come here after the sacred orchard shifted. The sacred orchard has shifted? Inquired Sar. Oh yes, sir. Afar is buzzing with excitement, for this may be the sign of the prophecy unfolding, said Haughty. Abaddon leaned over and whispered into Sar's ear. Sar's face lit up with delight as he nodded his head in agreement. You can help, Abaddon announced to the Isham. It is good that Shatar sent you, for your expertise is greatly needed. Did you two come alone? No, there are 2 others. They are waiting outside, Haughty replied. Get the others and wait for us in the library. We will join you shortly, commanded Sar. The Isham gave a hint of a bow and departed. Sar turned to Abaddon. We have pressing business in need of our attention, he gestured to the tree. Where is Azazel now? I have no idea. Abaddon rolled his eyes in disgust as he responded. The Isham had disappeared among the sprawling limbs of the tree as they traveled toward the private exit to collect the other 2 Isham. Sar and Abaddon had just proceeded forward again when they realized they were not alone. Sensing someone different behind them, they both stopped and slowly turned as if fearing whom they might find. Nekemabed had returned to the Alenthial Hall. The throne is secure and the orchard on Afar is complete, reported Nekemabed. Shall I call for Nagad? Yes, let us begin the preparation for our provision of the fruit, said Rahab, looking down into the table. Kohengal, you need to be on Afar before the orchard is opened. Pointing to the events in the table, Rahab moved his authoritative finger forward to show him exactly where Kohengal was to enter Afar. Nekemabed, you know your post during the provision. Make sure you are ready as well. Nekemabed walked over to the table of happenings and leaned over to see the events on Rahab. I see the tree of knowledge has taken root. I bet that shook things up, he stated with a laugh. Sar has not yet figured that out. His wisdom has been hindered by the Zuwd. The 3 milled over the table, waiting for the pieces to fall into place before they made their next move. Sar and Abaddon slowly turned, expecting to see Or. Abaddon smiled as he exhaled, and Sar twitched with surprise. Shatar, exclaimed Sar, trying to maintain a sense of calm. I was not expecting you. Shatar stood before them, shocked at the scene. What is going on, Sar? He asked, unable to take his eyes off the massive tree. Does this have something to do with the coming king? More than you know, Sar thought. Once again, Shatar, I have no idea what Or was talking about. He watched Shatar study the tree and jested. I am making a few upgrades. We are only in the beginning stages, which is why it looks so dreadful. Shatar maintained a serious edge. I received word that Rahab experienced a quake that originated from the palace, and I see from the mess that the report was accurate. Thank you for your concern, but I have everything under control. Sar was clearly irritated by Shatar's confidence. Is that so? Then why is your palace grounded? Grounded? Yes, grounded. You are aware that your palace no longer hovers. That explains the enormous quake. Of course I know my palace is grounded. I am experimenting. Experimenting with what? With new changes. Shatar was uneasy with Sar's implication, but chose not to voice his concern for the moment. My responsibility is to guard the stones of fire, and you are required to report any complications. There is nothing to report, but if such complications do arise, I will inform you. Remember, Shatar, I only report to Or. Now, if you will excuse me, I must go and prepare my address. As Sar and Abaddon turned to walk away, Azazel could be heard rushing toward them. Sir, I just remembered that there was some silver stuff in the fruit, he said before Sar could quiet him. Zuwd, whispered Abaddon, looking at Sar. What is Zuwd? Cried Shatar. It's Sar's creation along with the tree, blurted Azazel. Shatar's gaze instantly returned to Sar. A glimmer of light bounced off Sar's chest, drawing Shatar's eyes to the silver ornament, the Zuwd. Sar grabbed Shatar's arm and escorted him to the main door. "It's nothing," interjected Sar. "Half the time I have no idea what Azazel is babbling about." "Well, I appreciate your concern." Before Shatar could say another word, Sar slammed the door. He then spun around. Now, where were we? Shatar stood outside of Sar's palace with his nose just inches from the door. He could hear the throbbing crowd moving in behind him. Sar's men were swiftly gathering to hear his address. They were waiting for Sar to appear on the upper terrace overlooking the public square. Shatar's mind raced with questions. Are these changes for ushering in the king? Is this necessary? Why does my stomach churn here on Rahab? What other changes are coming? He stepped back from the door. As Shatar turned to leave, he noticed 4 Isham entering the palace through a private door. He called out, "May I ask what you are doing?" as he hurried in their direction. The Isham were taken back by the suspicious tone. "Sir, Hadi and I were sent from afar on your behalf. These are our colleagues. Abaddon has now requested our assistance in the library. Is there a problem?" inquired Vanity. Shatar was not ready to reveal his concern without first consulting Or. "No, be sure to complete your assignment and report back to me." "Yes, sir," they replied in unison as they continued into the palace, headed for the library. Shatar turned to leave with more questions than answers bouncing around in his head. He instructed his 2 companions at the entrance of the public square to return to Afar, while he continued on to Elenthial. Shatar headed straight to the northern sector before going to Salem. He was dumbfounded to see the wall of fire guarding the sector. But even more to his amazement was that the simulated orchard no longer had a place behind the walls. Shatar rushed to Salem. He found Nagad inside the temple. "Have you requested a meeting with Or?" asked Shatar. "I have just come from Rahab. I need to speak to Or first." Nagad seemed surprised at the request. "Or requested a meeting with me," he stated as the door of the temple opened. "Nagad," started the cherubim, "Or will see you now." "I must see Or first," Shatar announced. "Or knows you are here, Shatar. He knows of your concerns. He has only requested Nagad for now, but promises your questions will be answered soon," stated the cherub. "Go. You must return to Afar. Take to heart all you have been taught and do not waver. The first age is nearing its end." Sar rushed past Abaddon and Azazel, who were left trying to comprehend what they had just witnessed. They did not understand why Sar had escorted Shatar out so quickly. "Why would Sar insist on concealing this gift?" Azazel quietly asked Abaddon. "I get the impression there is more to this than we know," Abaddon began to say when suddenly they heard their names ring out from a frustrated Sar. "It appears we are about to find out," finished Abaddon. As the 2 made their way through the conundrum, they watched an array of beautiful new blossoms become mature flowers. The flowers swelled with color, then closed into themselves, forming perfect geometric shapes, crowned with velvety leaves. The fresh fruit ignited the 2's imagination. "Azazel, I assume this is the fruit you ate?" Sar asked. "Yes, sir," replied Azazel. Without delay, Sar took hold of one and broke it open. Inside was a collection of tiny seeds of Zuwd. Sar was surprised but maintained control. "Unbelievable," uttered Abaddon. "You possess far more power than we realized. For your Zuwd has produced this tree. Surely only the king could possess this kind of power," Abaddon thought. "Do you see what I have done?" prompted Sar. Not sure how to answer the question, Abaddon and Azazel remained silent. Sar stepped back, spread his arms, and proclaimed, "Behold the tree of knowledge." Abaddon, uncertain how to address Sar, hesitated after the proclamation. "What does that mean, the tree of knowledge?" he hated to ask. "I was ordained full of wisdom, and with my wisdom comes knowledge. The maturity of my knowledge has created the Zuwd, which has produced the tree for all to share. I give you the fruit so that your knowledge might increase and you can become like me," Sar decreed as he began to believe himself. Sar was now fully given over to the notion that he was the creator of the Zuwd and that he was responsible for the tree of knowledge. His lie became his truth. "Azazel, call your staff," commanded Sar. Have them repair the floors and clean up this mess. We must prepare the palace for visitors." "Yes, sir," said Azazel as he hurried off. Sar's attention returned to Abaddon. He handed him a piece of fruit and said, "Take this, the fruit of my labor." Abaddon proudly took the fruit and ate it. The 4 Isham had made themselves comfortable in the library. Dagon and Phronesis were the other 2 Isham that Vanity and Haughty had retrieved from outside. Azazel, the governor of the palace, would not have allowed them past the central hallway, but things were different now, and Abaddon had big plans for these Isham. "Something looked different about Sar. Did you notice anything, Haughty?" asked Vanity. "No, not really. But I did notice Abaddon was displeased with us at first. I thought we were going to be reprimanded for leaving our project. I guess I imagined—" Vanity was interrupted as the door swung open. Everyone jumped to their feet, unsure of where they were allowed to sit. "I hope you have made yourselves comfortable," Sar said as he entered the room. Abaddon gave a confident nod to confirm Sar's sincerity. The Isham breathed a sigh of relief and smiled. Abaddon walked to the reading area of the room and sat on the edge of a golden chair. He consciously hesitated before speaking, in order to add a sense of heavy responsibility as well as a heightened degree of honor to his proposal. "I would," Abaddon stopped to clear his throat and correct himself, "Sar would like to entrust you with a mission that no one else has ever had. It is of utmost importance that it is done correctly, for its result will influence and shape all angelic beings. Your names will be tied to its success, so all will know who you are and acknowledge your immeasurable craftsmanship." Sar walked toward them in a parading fashion. Abaddon got up and pulled out a chair to present to Sar. Sar took his robe off and draped it over the chair. He then stood behind it and firmly placed his hands on the back of the chair, puffing out his chest in a grand style. Haughty stepped back and stared. He now understood what Vanity had been talking about. Sar's color was dimming, and there was an addition of silver to his personage. Abaddon returned to his seat and proceeded. "Your master craftsmanship is needed to tailor a new look for Sar using his Zuwd." "Using what, sir?" asked Haughty. "Zuwd, the beautiful silver you see added to Sar," replied Abaddon. "Take a moment to let your ore-given talents take hold." Sar shot Abaddon a cutting look for mentioning ore, but Abaddon did not understand its intent. Vanity and Haughty stepped forward to accept the challenge, while the other 2, Dagon and Phronesis, volunteered to watch. Vanity squinted as he tried to imagine how to use the silvery substance. "Abaddon, do you need to get permission from ore for us to change Sar's appearance?" "No, that will—" "This is the fruit of my labor," Sar interrupted. "Ore is well aware of it and has given it to me to do as I wish, and I wish for you to tailor it." As Sar spoke, his inner light surged, then weakened more. Everyone in the room noticed how pale Sar had become since he had entered the library. Vanity lightly bit his bottom lip as he pulled his wing around to hide his face as he spoke to Haughty. "So, we would actually be doing the work for ore. Our names will be forever remembered if we do well." Haughty stepped aside with Vanity for a private conversation. The 2 Isham stretched out their wings and enclosed themselves in a private space. In the lowest whisper, Vanity shared his concerns with the proposal, but Haughty had a vision. "We can do this. It is for Sar, Or's spokesman. Think of how we will impress Or when he sees Sar's new look," persuaded Haughty. Vanity could not recall Or ever allowing anyone's appearance to be changed. Yet Haughty's words were persuasive. He agreed to go ahead with the plan. They broke apart and moved into flight around Sar. "Sir, may we touch you?" asked Vanity. "Yes. Do I need to stand or sit?" "Well," started Haughty, "do you want us to use all the Zuwd on your chest and shoulders?" Sar examined his shoulders and found an abundance on each side. He grinned and said, "Use it all. There is more where that came from." Vanity touched Sar's shoulders while Haughty worked on his chest. The Zuwd was solid and not willing to budge. Haughty noted that it felt similar to a unique metal the Isham worked with on Adam. Haughty began to vigorously rub his hands together, adding a hot puff of breath every now and again. He then placed his hands on the center ornament on Sar's chest. The Zuwd softened and became pliable. "Sir, would you please stand on the chair for us?" requested Haughty. Sar stepped up and the two moved higher into the air, allowing them more workspace. Haughty went to work softening the Zuwd and rolling it into thin strips. He found that it cannot be removed but can be guided in any direction. Haughty successfully rearranged the centerpiece into a web of veins. He molded the veins around each of Sar's beautiful gemmed scales, hiding the doling gold that once outlined them. Vanity was working hard on the two shoulder patches. He too generated heat and stroked the patches down Sar's shoulders, forming solid pauldrons. Haughty hinted that the gold on his back also needed to be covered, so Vanity did that as well. The two pulled back and admired their mastery of the Zuwd. Abaddon stepped forward. "Just one or two more touches, sir," he said as he glared at the Isham with a hint of concern. The two re-examined Sar. Haughty now understood Abaddon's concern. Sar's internal light had become so dim that his colors were no longer transparent but opaque. Vanity was quick to save the two. "Sir, there is new Zuwd on your shoulders that we want to use. For this last touch, we will need you to remain still," assured Vanity. He took his hands and effectively pushed the soft Zuwd down Sar's front and back. He then turned his back to Sar's back and moved his wings in a forceful manner. As his shoulder blades rolled, his wings shifted and rotated into a pattern of horizontal and vertical sweeps. The heat from the wings' frictions reapplied the Zuwd to cover Sar's entire body as well as giving it a good polish. He stopped and called Haughty and Abaddon back to see what he had done. When Abaddon glanced at Sar's back, he flinched from the glare of light streaming off the Zuwd. Once Abaddon gave a nod of approval, Haughty quickly went to work on the front as Vanity finished Sar's back and shoulders. Once completed, Sar's Zuwd no longer appeared silver as before, but now resembled a collection of reflective mirrors. Abaddon admired Sar's new appearance. Sar had completely lost his internal light. However, with the help of the Shine Zuwd, he was able to absorb light from all of Or's creations and bounce it back as if he was the producer of its illumination. "Perfect," assured Abaddon. "Your service here will not go without reward. I, too, will need some work," Abaddon said as he assisted Sar in putting his robe back on. The glare of the Zuwd was still quite noticeable through the robe. The Isham then turned their attention to the paling Abaddon, whose envious thoughts of Sar had produced plenty of Zuwd for them to work with. They fashioned Abaddon's Zuwd much the same way. Upon completion, Sar rendered his nod of approval. Looking at Haughty and Vanity, Sar said to them, "Come, be the first to officially partake of the tree." He opened the door leading into the northern hallway, which was now filled with branches and fruit, much like the western wing near Sar's chamber had been earlier. The tree of knowledge had grown at an expedited rate while the Isham were working on Sar and Abaddon. The limbs reaching up to the dome had broken through the transoms. Azazel's men had already prepared the center area for the introduction of the tree of knowledge. They had assembled a raised platform around the expanded tree and above the thickening roots. The platform led from the front eastern entrance just below Sar's balcony, directly to the center tower where the tree's fruit was most abundant. Then it separated toward the palace's north and south exit where ripe fruit also hung. Azazel saw Sar and Abaddon coming from the library with 4 Isham. He was shocked at Sar and Abaddon's splendor. Sar led 2 Isham up the northern end of the ramp and encouraged them to take a piece of fruit. They picked and ate. The 2 other Isham were hanging back behind Abaddon. While Abaddon celebrated Haughty and Vanity's membership as they took on Sar's image, the other 2 promptly plucked the succulent fruit and walked out the northern exit. Abaddon turned back to Phronesis and Daga, but they were gone. Once outside the northern palace exit, Daga and Phronesis felt more at ease. "Did you see what happened to Haughty and Vanity?" hastened Daga. "How did their appearance change so fast?" "Someone needs to know about this, and I know just the person," responded Phronesis.